For the longest time, I believed my husband when he said the late nights were about making partner. I didn't just believe him, actually. I admired him for it. I bragged about it to my friends, defended him to my sister, and swallowed the quiet loneliness that crept into our house after dark because I thought it was temporary. That was the story we both told each other. A few brutal years, a lot of sacrifice, and then life would open up again. His name is Daniel, and when I met him, he was the kind of man who made ambition look noble instead of exhausting. We were both 26, living in Chicago, working jobs that barely covered rent for our tiny Lincoln Park apartment. I worked in marketing for a mid-size retail company, and he had just started at a law firm downtown as a junior associate. Back then, we used to sit on the fire escape with cheap wine, talking about what our lives would look like in 10 years. Daniel always talked about becoming partner like it was climbing Everest. Brutal, nearly impossible, but if he made it, everything else would fall into place. Money, stability, freedom, kids. He'd say things like, "Just give me a few years of hell, and then we'll actually have a life." And I believed him. We got married 3 years later in a small ceremony in Michigan where my parents lived. Nothing fancy. A rented lakeside venue, white folding chairs, a slightly crooked arch with flowers that my mom insisted on arranging herself. Daniel cried when he saw me walking down the aisle, which made half the guests cry too. That was the version of him I held on to later, the guy who squeezed my hands during the vows like he was afraid I might disappear. The first few years of marriage were normal, busy, but good. He worked long hours, but it was predictable. Most nights he got home around 7 or 8. Sometimes 9 during trial prep. We'd still eat dinner together, watch Netflix, argue about stupid things like whose turn it was to do laundry. Then about 2 years ago, everything shifted. It started gradually, the way most bad things do. Daniel began staying later at the office. At first it was 10 or 11. He'd text me around 8 saying something like, "Still buried in contracts tonight, don't wait up." I didn't question it. His firm had just brought on a huge corporate client, and he was suddenly working directly under one of the senior partners. It sounded intense. But the hours kept stretching. Midnight, 1 in the morning, sometimes later. He'd come home smelling like stale coffee and city air, shoulders tight, tie loosened. I'd hear the front door creak while I was half asleep, and the mattress would dip when he climbed into bed. Most nights he didn't even wake me, just slipped under the covers quietly like a ghost. If I asked about it the next day, he'd sigh and run a hand through his hair. "Partner track is brutal," he'd say. "Everyone's watching everything I do." I'd nod and tell him I was proud of him, and I was, at least at the beginning. But after a while, the house started feeling strange, like it wasn't really ours anymore. We had bought it the year before in a quiet suburb about 30 minutes outside the city. A gray 2-story with white trim, the kind of place that looks exactly like what people imagine when they picture a stable married life. There was a porch swing Daniel insisted on installing himself. We barely used it. Most evenings I sat alone in the living room, the TV playing quietly while I scrolled through my phone or half paid attention to whatever show was on. Around 10, I'd start checking the time without realizing it. 11, midnight. Sometimes I'd text him just to see if he was alive. "You okay?" His responses were always quick. "Yeah, just grinding." Or "Still at the office. Love you." I told myself that was normal. Lawyers worked insane hours. But something else had changed too, and it took me a while to figure out what it was. Daniel had started guarding his phone. Before that year, his phone had always just existed. It sat on kitchen counters, coffee tables, the bathroom sink. Sometimes I'd use it to Google something if mine was in another room. Then suddenly it was always in his pocket, always face down. If a notification popped up, he'd glance at it fast, like he didn't want me to see the screen. The first time I noticed it clearly was during dinner one night about 8 months ago. He actually came home early that evening around 7. I'd made pasta and opened a bottle of red wine because I thought maybe we could pretend we still had a normal marriage. His phone buzzed on the table while we were eating. Daniel snatched it up so quickly he knocked his fork onto the floor. I laughed at first, expecting a call from the president or something. He forced a smile. Just work stuff. But he didn't put the phone back down. He held it in his hand while he finished eating. That moment stayed with me longer than I wanted it to. After that, I started noticing other little things. He started showering the second he got home, even if it was 2 in the morning. He began going to the gym again after work, which was weird because he had always hated working out late. Sometimes when he got home, he seemed lighter than someone who had just worked a 16-hour day, like he'd just come from somewhere fun instead of a conference room. One night I asked him directly, "Are you sure you're not burning out?" He was standing at the kitchen counter, pouring himself a glass of water. "What do you mean?" "I mean, these hours are insane, Dan. You barely sleep. You barely see me." He leaned back against the counter and gave me this tired half smile.
2 more years, he said. Maybe less. Once I make partner, everything changes. I wanted to believe that so badly it hurt, so I stopped asking questions. Winter came, then spring. Our life became a quiet routine of near misses and empty rooms. And then about 6 weeks ago, something happened that I didn't think much about at the time. Daniel mentioned that his team had hired a new assistant. Her name was Megan. She's actually amazing, he said one night while we were brushing our teeth. Total lifesaver with scheduling. I remember spitting toothpaste into the sink and joking, "Good, maybe she can schedule you a night off." He chuckled and kissed the top of my head. Maybe. After that, Megan's name popped up occasionally. She handled the filing for the Phoenix case. Megan fixed the calendar disaster from last week. It sounded completely normal. Assistants manage things. Lawyers rely on them. I didn't think twice about it. Until last Tuesday. I was at home working remotely that afternoon, sitting at the dining table with my laptop open and a mug of cold coffee beside me. It was one of those quiet suburban days where nothing seems to happen. Around 3:30, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen without really paying attention. The message preview showed a number I didn't recognize. For a second, I thought it was spam, but then I opened it and saw a text that was very clearly not meant for me. It said, "Hey, you left your watch on my nightstand again. Should I bring it to the office tomorrow, or do you want another excuse to come over tonight?" Under the message was a photo, a man's watch, and I recognized it instantly. It was the silver Tag Heuer I had bought Daniel for our 10th anniversary. My stomach went completely hollow.
Then another message popped up immediately after. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Wrong Daniel." I sat there staring at the screen while my heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The contact number wasn't saved in my phone, but the area code was Chicago, and the name Megan suddenly felt like it had weight. For a full minute, I couldn't move. I just kept staring at that picture of the watch sitting on a white nightstand I had never seen before. Daniel was supposed to be at work, grinding, chasing Artner, but somehow his watch had spent the night somewhere else, and the woman who sent the message clearly thought she was texting him. For a long time after that message arrived, I didn't move. I just sat at the dining table staring at my phone while the house stayed completely silent around me. The dishwasher hummed in the kitchen, a car drove past outside. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked once and then stopped. But inside my chest, everything felt like it had stopped. The picture on my screen showed Daniel's watch resting on a white nightstand beside what looked like a glass of water and a lamp with a beige shade. The bedding in the background was dark gray, slightly wrinkled, like someone had gotten up not long ago. It was such a small, ordinary image, but it felt like someone had kicked a hole straight through the middle of my life. The second message, the apology, sat right under it. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Wrong Daniel." My first instinct was to believe it. Actually, that's not true. My first instinct was to want to believe it, because believing it meant I could close the message, put my phone down, and pretend the weird feeling in my stomach wasn't real. There had to be thousands of men named Daniel in Chicago, and the text had come from an unsaved number. It could be anyone. I told myself that over and over, but there was a problem. The watch. That exact watch. The one I had spent 3 weeks secretly researching before our anniversary because Daniel had mentioned liking Tag Heuer watches once while we were walking past a jewelry store downtown. I'd saved up and bought it as a surprise. It had a tiny scratch on the edge of the bezel from when he dropped it in our driveway last summer. I zoomed in on the photo. The scratch was there. My hands started shaking. I locked my phone and placed it face down on the table, like the image might burn through the screen if I kept looking at it. For the next 10 minutes, I just sat there trying to breathe normally. Okay. Think. There were still explanations. Maybe Daniel had left the watch somewhere else. Maybe he had taken it off at the gym or the office and someone picked it up. Maybe Megan had somehow ended up with it and thought it was funny to text him about it. Maybe she really had just sent the message to the wrong Daniel. Except that didn't explain the nightstand, or the way the text was written, or the casual, again. My chest tightened when I realized something else. The message had come to me, not Daniel, which meant whoever sent it had Daniel's number saved wrong, or my number saved wrong. I unlocked my phone again. The number was still there. No contact name. Just 10 digits. My thumb hovered over the call button. I thought about pressing it. If a stranger answered, the whole thing would be nothing. But if she answered, I wasn't sure I was ready to hear whatever came next. So instead, I did something quieter. I opened my laptop. Daniel's firm had a public website with staff profiles. I had looked at it before when he first got hired years ago. I typed the firm's name into Google and clicked the link. The home page loaded slowly. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears.
I navigated to the staff directory and scrolled down through the list of partners and associates until I found Daniel's profile. There he was. Professional headshot. Navy suit. That confident half-smile he used when he wanted people to trust him. Under his name was the team he worked with, and under that was a smaller section labeled administrative staff. I already knew what I was going to find, but I clicked anyway. 3 assistant profiles popped up with little circular photos. The second one was Megan. She looked younger than I expected, maybe mid-20s. Long, dark blonde hair, bright smile, the kind of face that looks effortlessly friendly. Her bio said she had joined the firm 6 months ago. 6 months. That timing hit me like a cold wave, right around when Daniel's hours had started getting ridiculous. I stared at her photo for a long time, trying to imagine her texting that message, trying to imagine Daniel in a room that looked like the one in the picture, on her nightstand. My phone buzzed again. My stomach dropped. But when I looked, it was just a Slack notification from work. I exhaled slowly. Then something occurred to me. If that really was Megan, and she thought she had texted Daniel, then she probably believed she had just sent a mildly embarrassing message to someone she was seeing, and then realized she sent it to the wrong number, meaning she thought the damage was contained, meaning she probably wasn't expecting a response. My pulse started to pick up again. Before I could overthink it, I opened the message thread. I typed 3 words. "Who is this?" Then I hit send. The message delivered immediately. For about 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the typing bubbles appeared. They disappeared, then appeared again. My heart was pounding so hard my fingers felt numb. Finally, the response came. "Sorry, again. I meant to text someone else." I stared at the message. Neutral. Careful. I typed back. "Which Daniel?" 3 dots appeared almost instantly, then vanished. A full minute passed. 2 minutes. Just when I thought she might not answer again, another message came through. "Just someone I'm seeing. I really didn't mean to bother you." My throat tightened. Someone I'm seeing. I looked again at the photo she had sent. The watch. Daniel's watch. I typed slowly this time. Is his last name Carter? My last name. Our last name. The typing bubbles appeared again. This time they stayed longer. Long enough that I could picture her reading the question over and over. Then they disappeared. No message came. 5 minutes passed. 10. I started to feel that weird floating sensation people describe when something terrible is about to become real. Finally, my phone buzzed again. A single message. "Who is this?" I could almost feel the shift in the conversation. The moment where curiosity had turned into suspicion. I thought about lying, pretending to be someone else. But suddenly I was too tired for games. My fingers moved before I could second guess it. "I'm Daniel's wife." The message delivered. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the typing bubbles appeared. They vanished. Appeared again. Vanished again. It felt like watching someone panic in real time through 3 little dots. Another full minute passed. Then my phone rang. The same number. My entire body froze. I stared at the incoming call like it was a bomb about to go off. Part of me wanted to decline it and throw the phone across the room. But another part, the part that had been sitting alone in this house night after night, needed to know. I answered. "Hello?" For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then a woman's voice came through the speaker. Soft. Shaky. Oh my God. Just those 3 words. Not defensive. Not angry.
Just stunned. I closed my eyes. "Are you Megan?" Another pause. "Yes." The way she said it told me everything I didn't want to hear. My throat felt dry. "How long?" I asked. She let out a quiet breath that sounded almost like a laugh of disbelief. "You didn't know." It wasn't a question. "No," I said. Another silence. Then she said something that made my stomach twist in a way I can still feel even now. "He told me you two were separated." I felt like someone had slammed a door in my chest. My hands went cold, and for a second I couldn't even form words. "Separated?" I croaked, my voice barely above a whisper, but somehow it sounded loud enough in my own head to hurt.
Yes, she said again, quieter this time, almost like she was afraid of what I'd do next. He said you weren't together anymore, that it was complicated, that he didn't want to hurt you. I laughed, a short, harsh, bitter laugh that sounded nothing like me. Complicated? I repeated. You think this is complicated? My heart was hammering in a way I didn't know was physically possible, my chest tight as if someone had pressed a fist into it. I live with him. We have a house, bills, plans, a life. You think I'm complicated? She didn't respond right away. I could hear her breathing, quick and shallow, like she had realized she'd stepped into something much bigger than she anticipated. Then she said, I didn't know. I swear, I really didn't know. And that's when it hit me. The texts, the photo, the late nights, the excuses, the gym sessions, the way he smelled differently when he came home sometimes. Every tiny thing I'd brushed off, convinced myself was normal. Every moment I had told myself I was just imagining it. They weren't coincidences. They were lies. I slumped back in my chair. My legs wouldn't hold me, so I let myself sink to the floor. My phone trembled in my hand. My vision blurred. My mind went blank, then racing, then blank again. I kept hearing the words, over and over. He told me you two were separated. Separated. We weren't separated. We weren't even close to it. I pressed my forehead to the floor and tried to breathe. I tried to think. I tried to imagine any possible explanation. Maybe he had been coerced. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe it was some horrible mistake. But the deeper I went into my mind, the more I realized it didn't add up. Everything she said lined up with the little things I had noticed. Every unexplained late night. Every secretive phone call. Every tiny shift in his behavior. I got up and started pacing the living room, my bare feet brushing against the hardwood floors. The house felt too big, too empty, too quiet. I could hear the furnace hum, the old pipes creaking in the walls. I felt trapped in a cage I hadn't noticed until now. I thought about confronting him immediately. I imagined walking into the office, cornering him, shaking him until he admitted the truth. But my head spun at the thought. If he denied it, what then? What if he lied? I'd be left doubting myself, gaslit in my own home. And then the next thought hit me, the thought that made my stomach drop deeper than anything before. Megan didn't know about me. She believed she was with someone else. That meant this wasn't just a fling that happened in secret at work. This was a premeditated betrayal. He had created a story for someone else to believe, so that he could keep the lie going right under my nose. I sank onto the couch and pressed the back of my hand against my forehead, trying to stop my thoughts from spinning out of control. Every memory of the past month started coming back with brutal clarity. The empty nights, the overly long meetings, the sudden urge to shower after getting home, the late texts he'd send me at 1 a.m. saying, "Just wrapping things up, love you." I had defended him to myself, to anyone who questioned it. It's the law world, I told myself. He's stressed. He's working late. Stressed. Working late. All lies. I leaned back into the couch cushions and stared at the ceiling. My eyes burned. My chest ached. My hands shook. I couldn't stop imagining them together. The way her hand might have brushed against his arm. The laughter that had never been mine to hear. The casual kisses that belonged to someone else. It was unbearable, and yet I couldn't look away in my mind. Then I thought about the watch again. The Tag Heuer. My anniversary gift. The one I had chosen after weeks of secret planning. And there it was, sitting on some other nightstand. I could almost see the scratches. The memories we had attached to it. All the dinners. The nights we spent talking about our future. They felt like they had been stolen. Rewritten. Erased. I thought about calling him. I wanted to scream into the phone. Demand answers. Demand explanations. But I didn't. Not yet. Part of me wanted to throw the phone across the room. Part of me wanted to wait for him to come home, so I could see the expression on his face when I confronted him. But I knew that seeing him first would make it real in a way I wasn't ready for. So I did the only thing I could think to do. I stayed put. I let the silence of the house swallow me. I stared at my hands and tried to decide if I should feel angry or broken first. I didn't know which came first anymore. By the time evening rolled around, I could hear his car pull into the driveway. My heart nearly stopped. I sat frozen on the couch, pretending to scroll on my phone, my stomach twisting like I had just swallowed a stone. The front door opened. "Hey, babe," he said, tossing his keys on the counter, sounding casual like everything was normal. I looked at him, really looked at him, the hair sticking up on one side of his head, the jacket he hadn't bothered to hang yet, the way he walked like he owned the space. Everything about him was the same, but now I could see the cracks. The way his eyes darted to the phone on the counter, the slight stiffening of his shoulders. "Hey," I said, my voice shaking, trying to sound normal, trying to sound calm. He frowned. "You okay? You look pale." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I'm fine," I said, but I wasn't. Dinner was quiet, too quiet. He tried to make conversation, asked about my day. I gave one-word answers. My appetite had disappeared. Every bite I took felt like chewing on ashes. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes, I looked up. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I placed my fork down and said, "Daniel, I know about Megan." He froze mid-chew. I could see it in his eyes before he even said anything. That moment, the one where a liar knows they've been caught, was one of the sharpest pains I've ever felt. "What do you mean?" His voice was low, controlled, dangerous. I leaned back and tried to steady myself. "I got a text. From her. The wrong number. She sent a picture. Your watch was on her nightstand." He froze completely. The fork clattered to the plate. His face went pale. His eyes darted to the phone on the counter. I could see the panic start to creep in, the carefully constructed composure starting to crack. "Look," he said finally. "I can explain." "Explain?" I echoed. My voice was sharper than I intended. "Explain how you've been lying to me for months. How you've been sneaking around, pretending the late nights were about work, while you've been doing this." He opened his mouth, then closed it, took a breath, tried again.
"It's not what you think." "Not what I think," I laughed bitterly. "Daniel, my husband, don't talk. Don't even—" I stopped myself. I didn't want to yell, not yet. I wanted him to squirm. I wanted him to feel what I felt. He looked at me, completely cornered, and I swear for a second he looked like a kid caught doing something unforgivable. And in that moment, everything we had built together, all the years, all the plans, all the trust, shattered in my head. I stood up. My chair scraped against the floor. I felt taller, angrier, more furious than I had in years. "You lied to me every single night, every single day you weren't at home. I defended you to everyone. I trusted you, Daniel. And you weren't even honest with yourself. And you think you can just explain it?" His jaw tightened. "I never wanted to hurt you. You never wanted to hurt me? Or you just didn't care?" He looked down, then back at me. No words came out, and in that silence, the truth became even more unbearable. I realized I didn't just want to know about Megan. I wanted to know how long, how often, how much of my life he had stolen, how much he had been living in a fantasy while I was living a nightmare right beside him. And that's when I decided I needed the truth, the whole truth, no more hiding, no more excuses. Because I realized, sitting there in my own living room, that if I didn't find out now, I might never be able to trust myself again. I told him to sit down. My voice was steady now, cold, but underneath it was something raw and desperate, something I hadn't let anyone see in years. I needed answers. I needed him to stop pretending, to stop hiding behind partner track and excuses. I needed him to spill everything, and I didn't care how messy it got. He hesitated, the way someone does when they know the house they're sitting in is no longer safe. I could see it in his eyes, the fear, the guilt, the calculation of how much he could salvage. I didn't give him that time. "Daniel," I said firmly, "tell me everything, start to finish. I want to know how long, how often, everything. No excuses." He swallowed hard. He ran a hand through his hair like it would physically make him stronger, like it could scrub the guilt off. "Okay," he said finally, his voice breaking just slightly. I guess I deserve this. I don't even know where to start. I never meant for it to go this far." That was the first lie. I nodded for him to continue,
my hands gripping the edge of the kitchen counter, knuckles white. "It started about 6 months ago," he said, staring at the floor. "I started spending more time at the office. Macon, she was helpful, super helpful, and I don't know, it just happened. I didn't plan it, I don't know." I laughed bitterly, the sound hollow and empty. "You don't know. You don't know how long you've been lying to me? How long you've been sneaking around my house, telling me you were at work, pretending like this life we built together was enough for you?" He flinched, like I'd hit him. "I never thought it would happen," he said weakly. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Not meant to go this far," I repeated, voice rising. "Daniel, she has your watch. She has your personal belongings. She's sitting in your apartment while I'm sitting here, your wife, wondering if the man I married even exists anymore. And you—" I stopped myself, tears blurring my vision. "I was scared," he whispered. "I was scared you'd leave me, scared I'd ruin everything we built. I thought if I just kept it under control, it would stop, or, I don't know, I thought I could fix it before it got too far." "Fix it?" I said, incredulous. "How do you fix cheating, Daniel? How do you fix lying to your wife for 6 months? How do you fix every day you spent telling me you were tired from work while you were sleeping with someone else? How do you fix the life you've stolen from me?" He had no answer. The weight of it, the betrayal, the lies, the casual way he had dismantled my trust, pressed down so hard I thought I might collapse. I realized then that the man I married, the one I thought I knew, had never really existed. There was Daniel on the surface, ambitious, charming, funny, but underneath there was something else. A man capable of lying so consistently, of weaving deception so seamlessly into our lives, that I had become to doubt my own instincts. I couldn't breathe. Not really. I went into the bedroom and pulled open the drawers of my dresser, searching for small reminders of our life that might have stayed intact. Pictures, letters, keepsakes. Everything felt contaminated now. I held our wedding photo in my hands, tracing the outlines of our smiling faces, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time I had felt genuinely safe with him. When I came back into the living room, he was standing near the window, hands in his pockets, staring out at the street like he might see someone coming to arrest him. "I'm sorry," he said again. "I know that doesn't mean anything. I know I can't take it back. But I love you. I swear I do." Love. I felt my stomach twist. The word sounded hollow. I remembered every night I had spent alone in that house, waiting for him, defending him, lying to myself. I remembered the stolen nights he spent in someone else's arms. I remembered the tiny, casual betrayals, the phone calls, the texts, the meetings that went late into the night and ended somewhere they shouldn't have. "Love doesn't do this, Daniel," I said finally, my voice quieter now, tight with exhaustion. "Love doesn't hide. Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't spend 6 months telling someone else you're available while I'm sitting here, trusting you." He didn't respond. He just looked at me, eyes wet, mouth open, like maybe he wanted to argue but had no words left. I walked past him toward the front door. Every step felt like moving through water, every movement weighted with years of disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. I opened the door and stopped. I didn't want to slam it. I wanted him to feel the gravity of what he had done without a sound, without theatrics. "Get out," I said. "Leave the house. Tonight. I need space. I need everything that's left of my life without you in it. And I don't want to see you until I decide if us, is even worth it." He hesitated. "Please, just listen." "No," I said, louder this time. "I've been listening for months. I've been listening to lies, and I'm done." He finally moved. Slowly, carefully, like a man who knew he had destroyed something irreparable. He left. The door clicked shut behind him, and the house sank into silence again. I didn't cry immediately. I sat on the couch for a long time, just staring at the door, listening to the quiet. And then I finally let it out. Big, ragged sobs that made my body shake. I let myself fall apart because I had carried this tension, this confusion, this unspoken fear for so long, and now it was all out. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed on the couch, phone in hand, staring at the darkened street outside. I thought about every little thing, the texts, the late nights, the empty apartment, the stolen intimacy.
I thought about how careful he had been, how seamlessly he had managed to convince me, to convince everyone, that he was the man I thought I married. I realized then that I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't unfeel it. I couldn't pretend anymore. He had dismantled everything I believed about our life, and there was no going back. In the following days, I went through everything: emails, texts, receipts, anything that could give me clarity. I confronted him multiple times, and each time he gave fragments of truth. Confessions broken up by denials, partial apologies, excuses, and rationalizations. Each word he spoke felt like a scalpel cutting through my heart a little more. I saw him leave the house multiple times, never alone, and every time he walked out the door, I felt that same hollow pit in my stomach. My friends called, my sister called, but I couldn't explain it without spilling his secrets, and I wasn't ready to do that. Not yet. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing how deeply it had infiltrated our life. Every memory, every laugh, every moment I had shared with him, it was tinged now with doubt. I could no longer separate the man I loved from the man I had lived with. And yet, some small, stubborn part of me still clung to the hope that maybe he could come back, that maybe he would choose me over the deception. I don't know if that hope is foolish. I don't know if it will ever disappear. But what I do know is this: trust, once broken, leaves a void that nothing else can fill. And I am left sitting in a house that feels bigger than ever, with my heart raw, my mind racing, and a future that is completely uncertain. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if our marriage survives. I don't know if I forgive him. I don't know if I even want to. But I do know this: for the first time in a long time, I am seeing the truth. And the truth is a cold, sharp thing that cuts through everything, leaving me alone with the pieces of a life I thought I knew. I've realized that love alone isn't enough to protect you from lies. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you most. And sometimes all you can do is face it, raw and broken, and decide if you're strong enough to pick up the pieces. I spent that night awake, listening to the city hum outside my windows, the distant sirens, the occasional car passing by, and I cried until my body was too exhausted to do anything else. And as the first light of morning came through the blinds, I knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever feel the same again.